Oh yeah. Oh, check, check. Yeah. Keep on. Đến. Oh, 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 oh. Brother Nghiêm, can you hear me from the speaker? Can you hear me from the speaker? It's coming. You have the magic touch. Bấm được phải tên nút này. Cái tình trạng này á. Cái kia bỏ vô. Không, sao này bắt con rắn. Bắt con rắn. Bắt cái chỗ nào đó.
Cân nó đừng ở đấy lên đấy. Kia. Đó, người ta đừng có phải qua đây được mà.
Từ đấy cần đến còn dài lắm. Mà sao ai thu? Cần đến còn một đoạn nữa. Mà nó ai thu ngắn đấy chứ.
Sao nét đó đấy? Nét đó, nhưng mà shit.
Spotlight MGM streaming.
Hello, my friends. Welcome. How would you feel about a few songs? Yeah. Okay. We're going to start off today with Simple Things. It's number 5. Me and my brother here, we come from Deer Park Monastery, and in Deer Park, this is a classic. So we hope you will enjoy it as much as we do.
Listen to the water, hear what they say. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey.
Okay, funny story about that song. We had a teen camp in Deer Park a year ago, and that song became the hit song with all the teenagers. And anywhere you went on the mountain, you could hear teenagers everywhere all the time, hey ya, hey ya, hey, all day long. We had to ban the song for weeks afterwards just to like clear out the energy. Okay. Maybe a sister would like to recommend the next song. Number 4, We Are All. There are some hand motions for this song, so even if you don't know all the words, please just follow the hand motions with us. You'll pick it up.
We are all the leaves of one tree. We are all the leaves of one tree.
We're going to do happiness, number 14. Now, when we sing happiness, you got to smile. We are going to do number 12, Freedom of the Heart, also known as I Am a Cloud.
Spreading out its wings. walk together joyfully.
Thank you for singing songs with us. We'd now like to invite the brothers and sisters up for chanting.
Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that the collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating us from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
With hearts established in mindfulness, we are truly present, for sitting and walking meditation, and for reciting the sutras. đầu cần dương liễu vương cam
Dear friends, there are some empty cushions in the front row, so if we could fill up the front rows to support the Dharma teacher that gives the Dharma talk today. When we hear the sound of the small bell, please stand up to greet Sister Đẳng Nghiêm. Please have a seat, dear community. Dear beloved Thai, dear beloved community, good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Higher? Okay, let us sit up beautifully with our back upright, our shoulders open and relaxed. Smile. Smile to the fact that at this moment we are healthy, youngest, most handsome, most beautiful compared to the rest of our lives. Enjoy being young and healthy as we listen to 3 sounds of the bell. Dear beloved teacher, dear brothers and sisters, dear beloved community, I know you're here and I'm very happy. This is a retreat especially for healthcare professionals and caregivers. So I'd like to share with you a story. Actually, it's a discourse given by the Buddha. The title of the discourse is 4 Kinds of Persons. So the Buddha said that there are 4 kinds of people. The first kind are those who don't care about their own well-being or the well-being of others. That's the first kind. The second kind of people are those who care about the well-being of others, but they don't really take care of their own well-being. Does it sound familiar? Yeah, most of us actually care about the well-being of others. We work very hard, to serve, to take care of our families, our workplace, patients, clients, loved ones, and yet we do not take very good care of ourselves. The third kind of people, the Buddha said, are those who care about their own well-being, but not the well-being of others. And he asserted that the third kind of people are better, more superior than the first two kinds of people. It doesn't sound very Buddhist, does it? But the Buddha said that it's been recorded. And of course, the fourth kind of people are those who care about their own well-being and the well-being of others. Why is it that the third kind of people who care about their own well-being but not others would be more preferable? It is because when we take care of others and we neglect, even abuse ourselves, our bodies, our minds, then whatever good that we do may be very short-lived. Our good intention that we began with may turn sour, bitter. We may become quite burned out, resentful, angry, and we can become quite abusive to those we make the vow to love and care for, whether they are our loved ones or they are our patients or clients. Have you experienced some of that? Now, when I was in medical school, there were times when I drove to the hospital for my rotation. And when I got to the parking lot of the hospital, I just stayed in the car and cried. I was so overwhelmed with my own suffering. And I really didn't want to face more suffering from my patients. So I would sit there for a while, and eventually I'll go into the hospital, but then I would go to the office and check on lab results instead of seeing patients, because looking at numbers was more, less triggering than seeing my patients, even though I went to medical school with the aspiration to love and care for the sick. And that is why the Buddha said those who care for the well-being of others but not their own, they eventually cause more suffering to themselves and to others. But when we learn to take care of ourselves, we know how to listen to our own body, to its needs. When is it that we need to take a break, to go for a walk, to even use a toilet break? How many of us forget to use a toilet break? We'll postpone, we'll delay. It may be another hour. Sometimes it's even 3 or 4 hours later, and we have not taken care of that very basic, essential need, which later will cause problems with the bladder, right? Like urinary incontinence, for example. So in that way, when we do not listen to our body, And we do not listen to our feelings, our thoughts. We suppress them because we need to take care of more urgent matters. Then those thoughts and feelings and views, they continue to work in our subconscious. They are like waves, undercurrents, and then they surface anytime. We think we're peaceful, we think we have it together, and suddenly you just lose it. When somebody said something, when somebody does something like a nurse, a doctor, and you just literally lose it. How is that? It's because of all those currents, undercurrents, have been building up a momentum, and now they will surface as a wave and sometimes as a tsunami. But if we learn to care for them, to calm them, then throughout the day, we anchor from within. And the basis of our service, of our love, of our care, it has the foundation of stability, of calm, right? So let us enjoy a sound of the bell together. We have learned about mindful breathing, about being mindful of our posture, of our body. So whenever we sit, just come back and sit upright. The body speaks the mind. You know, when you slouch on a couch, well, the mind is also slouching. But if you want the mind to be upright, the mind to have clarity, in those moments, just sit upright. And you see, there is a difference in the quality of your thinking, in the way that you are thinking. There's a very deep teaching of the Buddha that I believe encompasses pretty much all the teachings. And that is the teaching on interbeing. I don't know if you've heard this word. Our teacher hopes that it will be in Oxford Dictionary one of these days. So there's an illustration that may be easy for you to understand. Have you seen a yin-yang bean? It has this oblong shape and it's divided into two halves. Half of the bean is black and half of the bean is white. Okay? On the black side, it has a white dot. And on the white side, it has a black dot. Okay? They call it a yin-yang bean. Okay? In the black, there is the white. In the white, there is the black. When we are in the caregivers, in the health professionals, there are also the patients, right? Have you ever gone to the hospital, to a doctor, and be a patient yourself? It's very humbling, indeed. So, in a caregiver, there is a patient. that in the patient, there is the caregiver, the ultimate person who can care for ourselves, for us, is ourselves. You see? So this is in this is in that, and that is in this. This is a teaching on inter-being. Yeah. So our teacher has told this humor. To be or not to be, that is not the question. Okay? But we are everything. Inter is with all other things. So this yin-yang being, you can also understand is as an interbeing. Okay? An interbeing that illustrates the teaching on interbeing. So what can determine the quality of our love and our care for our loved ones, for our patients, clients, for others? To me, it depends on our insight on interbeing. Okay? As long as you still see the healer is different from the healing process, that schism, that division, that separation serves as an obstacle to our care, caring for ourselves, caring for others. But if we have the insight of interbeing, keenly aware that the healer, the healed, and the healing process are in each other. They they are each other. This is in that. And this is because that is. The caregiver is because the patient is. And the patient is because the caregiver is, right? And this is not because that is not. The caregiver is not, therefore the patient is not. When we are not calm, stable, when we are vulnerable, when we are unstable, when we are fragile, that quality of being will manifest, and others will sense it, will experience that energy, and they will also react to that energy. This is true, right? So usually I have parents come to me, they would say, Sister D, my children have problems. Can you help take care of them? Can you fix them? And in all honesty, with all my experiences, I really see the parents have the most problems. And that is why their children have so many problems. So we learn to take care of our own energy so that we can effectively care for others. Okay? So we just share about the 4 kinds of persons. Now I would like to go into another very deep teaching found in the teaching of the Buddha. It's called the 5 remembrances. Okay, the 5 remembrances. Looking into the seeds of fear in us. We need to do this. As healthcare professionals, as caregivers, we need to look into the seeds of fear in us, to take care of them, to be familiar with them, and hopefully to master them, because they will determine the quality of our care. The first remembrance is, I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. Okay? Old age. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. The second remembrance is that I am of the nature to be sick. I cannot escape being sick. Sickness. We know that in every cell of our body, there's programmed cell death, apoptosis, right? A cell can only live so much. For example, a red blood cell can only live about 120 days. So close to the 120 days as the lifespan of a red blood cell, then it will start, the internal generator will begin to slow down and all the organelles will start to break down, right? So it will go through apoptosis as programmed. That is a part of every living being. We are programmed to grow old and to die at a cellular level, at a body level, as a cosmic level. We are programmed to change constantly and to come to an end. But red blood cells, those that go through apoptosis, at the same time, other cells are generated, right? So that's a cycle, birth and death, coming and going, but it enables life. Now when a cell has some kind of mutation in its gene, and it doesn't go through this apoptosis, what happens? Instead of dying, it will continue to proliferate, right? And that is cancer, and that will bring about the demise of a person. So there is this natural rhythm in us that we need to go through old age and sickness in order for life to be possible. For one generation to the next, life is possible. But as human beings, we do not want to regard this, to face it, to accept it, right? Now, mindfulness, the Chinese character for mindfulness, the upper article stands for now, Nghiêm, okay? And the lower character, that's mind. Mindfulness literally means now mind, a mind that is in the here and the now. It also means, mindfulness also means to remember. So when the mind that is in the here and the now, it remembers what is true, what is a part of reality. Often we are not in the here and the now. Our mind is lost in the past, is lost in the future. We yearn for the past, we regret over the past, we anticipate and worry over the future. Those things are more abstract. Things that have gone are gone, things that have not yet come. And we are not facing, we are not confronting what's happening, such as our nature of growing old and of getting sick. And one doesn't have to be old to get sick, right? We have plenty of children who have terminal illnesses. Sickness can develop at any point. I asked, we had a a group of Dharma discussion for young adults. And I asked them, do you think it's morbid? Well, do you think it's morbid to contemplate on this regularly? We are encouraged as spiritual practitioners to contemplate on old age and sickness regularly. Sometimes when I look at my hands and I look at the age spots, I look at the blemishes on my face, and instead of feeling repulsed by them, I actually learn to hold them close to my heart or to stroke my own hands. To know that they reflect the years of my life, all the memories, the experiences. You see, to learn to hold them tenderly. They are parts of me. So is it morbid to contemplate on these 5 remembrances? I asked the young adults. And one young woman, she said, I've come to the practice the last few years, and I've been practicing the 5 remembrances every so often. And I just did it because I was suggested to do so. But a couple of weeks ago, I happened to be in a shower, and as I was shampooing my hair, a chunk of hair came off, and I panicked. She said, I panicked, but it was only for 5 seconds. And a thought arose, I am of a nature to grow old. I am of a nature to be sick. And she said, when that thought arose, I just calmed down. That was amazing, she said. We practice and, with good faith, but the truth is that when I have difficulties, the practice comes to aid me. And so, suffering doesn't come from the event itself so much. Old age, plants, they grow old, they shed leaves, they shed their barks, right? It's a part of life. That's not suffering. Suffering comes from our inability to confront what is. Suffering comes from our denial. Denial can be an acronym for what is for? Denial, D-E-N-I-A-L. Don't even know I'm lying. I am lying to myself and putting a blind over my eyes. I don't want to acknowledge, to recognize, to accept what is. I am in denial. Suffering comes from being in denial. So we can practice, we can use in our daily life, all of us, as long as we have a body, their sickness will arise. Okay? The deterioration, the changes will take place moment to moment. So we can use that actually as a practice. A practice of being aware of the state of our body. Breathing in, I am aware of my body. I am aware of the changes on my forehead, on my face, on my hands, in my joints. When I stand up, I feel a little bit more wobbly. There's some pain, right? I am aware. I acknowledge these changes in my body. And breathing out, I embrace these changes tenderly. Hello, change. I know you are there. And I am here to take care of you. Okay? So let us breathe with one sound of the bell. Just scan through your body with the ray of mindfulness, part by part, and then just breathe and smile to each part of your body. I know you are there. I am aware of the changes, and I breathe and relax and smile. We are in such denial that we would try to come up with, such advanced technology to change that, right? Botox injection, that is a strong denial of old age. We want to reverse that process, or at least hold it off, or just to mask it, right? Old age, sickness. There are those of us, especially as healthcare professionals and caregivers, when we get sick, we are the last to go to a doctor. We hold it off. We don't want to acknowledge it. We suppress it. So that when it gets very severe, then we become frantic, very frightened. But we continue to mask it. We try to keep up with everything as if nothing is wrong. We still put our health aside. We still act so, heroically. I know my best friend from medical school, her husband's former wife died of cancer. And even in the last stage of her illness, she continued to go to work. She acted as if everything was normal. And her two girls just assume mom is okay because she's still going to work. Everything is normal. It helped them to be in deeper denial, right? They wanted to deny what was going on, and the mother helped them to do so. So then she died, and it seemed so sudden to them. And they felt in severe distress, but also they felt betrayed because they weren't prepared for it. And therefore, after she died, they really struggled with it because they weren't mentally prepared. They didn't get off work. They didn't, leave their school. They didn't spend much time with their mother. And then suddenly she was gone. So this is something that we learn to be aware in ourselves, be comfortable with our old nature of growing old and being sick, so that we can help our loved ones and our patients. If we cannot accept this nature, then how can we help our patients to accept it? We cannot, right? Now, we have a phenomenon called living old this date and age because of all the advanced technology, the advancement in medicine, that people now live into their 80s and 90s. And the adult children who take care of these elderly, they may be in their 60s and 70s themselves. Yeah? So medical advancement helps prolong life. It helps the quality of life sometimes, but many times it prolongs life through these radical interventions. But it leaves many elderly bedbound, right? Many elderly. I saw this documentary. This woman is in her late 80s. She has Alzheimer's. She has all sorts of severe condition. And the doctor asked her children, do you want to put her on, a ventilator, or do you want her to be able to pass away naturally? And of the 3 daughters, one really wanted to allow her mother to go through the natural process. But the other 2 were determined to keep her on the respirator because to them, they felt guilty if they didn't do everything for their mother. And the doctors felt the same way too. We don't want to admit defeat. If we don't do anything, it means that we have failed the patients, but we have also failed our own ego. We cannot accept that there's nothing we can do, so we will intervene. And this woman was left on the ventilator for almost 2 years before she died. Can you believe it? In her late 80s, have Alzheimer's on a respirator for almost 2 years. We can spend millions of dollars on the end stage of life for each person. Whereas we have so many young people in many displaced, disadvantaged communities. We do not care for the children who suffer from trauma. The teenagers, the young adults, the people who struggle for their just simple daily sustenance, for their education, for their trauma. But we invest so much in medicine to do good with the good intention, surely. But if we do not have the insights of interbeing, if we do not have these remembrances as our concentration, as our contemplation, then our efforts may only reflect our own ego, our incapacity to accept what is, okay? To know when to intervene and also to know when to let things be, to allow people to be in peace, to be in their home. Most people want to die in their home, surrounded by their loved ones, right? Yet most people die in the hospital. Not from the natural cause, the underlying illness, but from complications from being in the hospital, of these super infections, the bed sores, right? The stroke, etc. So we need to learn to remember, to have that now mind, so that we are not rigid and fixed in our assessment and decision making. Let us enjoy one sound of the bell together. Come back to the body, breathe, relax, and cultivate a spacious mind, a quiet mind, a stable mind. The first remembrance, I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. Second, I am of the nature to get sick. I cannot escape sickness. The third remembrance, I am of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. Old age, sickness, and death. I am of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. There are questions such as, can we avoid the inevitable death? Can death be optional? Have you heard these questions before? In yourself and also in the scientific community? Well, these questions are taken very seriously. So recently, I watched this documentary, and they talk about artificial immortality. Okay. Bất tử một cách nhân tạo. Artificial immortality. So the assumption or working hypothesis is that that consciousness is comprised of data. So you know, like how you use the transfer file? You transfer the files? Well, if consciousness is data, it's just data, then you can transfer the data in your own consciousness to a kind of computer, and it will keep all these memories for you. So they collect, or actually they have this they call digital Deepak Chopra. Have you seen it? Okay, there's this app, Digital Deepak Chopra. He's like this major Indian guru. So they're doing this to some, they start this experiment already. So what happens is that they would collect all the pictures from his life. Let's say use Deepak Chopra and all his pictures, and then he also type down, record the events of his life, the significance of these events, how he felt, what was going on. So all of that was, can be collected as data. And then they also develop this digital version of him that looked a lot like him. So it's like when you go on Zoom and you talk to, let's say we talk on Zoom. You see me, right, in this two-dimensional structure. But you can ask me questions and I can answer. So this is what they do. This artificial immortality, you have this digital version of yourself. Okay? Let's see, this is a digital version of me. Okay? And then what happens is that the argument goes, if I have this digital version of myself, then when I die, my children can still continue to know me, to know what happened to me. So let's say a child will say, Mom, what did you feel when you gave birth to me? So this process of this supercomputer, right? And there's the day that she was born, he was born, and there's this photograph of the mother. And it can analyze the data, 90% happy, just based on facial expressions, 10% relief, something. And then it would answer, I felt very happy and relieved when I gave birth to you. Can you believe it? So that's what it does. So that's your digital version that will keep you immortal until they find a way to keep our body immortal, at least this digital version. So I thought about this. Very interesting. And the Buddha actually addressed this issue in a discourse called Anuruddha Discourse. Anuruddha Discourse, that's the name of a venerable monk. And then came along a lay person who asked, after the Buddha passed away, will the Buddha continue to exist? So that's an A option, right? 2, after death, will the Buddha cease to exist? That's the B option. Continue to exist or ceases to exist. The third option, will the Buddha both continue and cease to exist? A and B. Or fourth, the fourth proposition, after death, will the Buddha neither continue nor cease to exist? So not A and not B. Okay? So that was the dialectical argument. So either A or B, or both A and B, or neither A nor B. So the lay person asked this Venerable Anuruddha, and he said, to be honest, I've never heard of the Buddha talking about these 4 propositions. So this person thought, oh, maybe this monk just ordained, or he's not very intelligent. So he walked away, or she walked away. And then this venerable monk thought, I need to ask the Buddha about this because I'm sure others will ask me, right? And I don't want to disappoint the Buddha or to give wrong teaching. So he came to the Buddha and repeated the question. And so the Buddha went through point by point. Can you find me in my form, in this very body? Can you find the Tathagata, the Buddha? And the answer was not entirely, not just in the body you can find the Tathagata. Can you find me outside of form? No, you cannot. So form, feelings, perceptions, consciousness, you cannot really find the essence of the person just in these categories, you see? Neither inside nor outside. So the Buddha said this, Anuruddha, if you cannot find the Tathagata even while he is still alive, can you find the Tathagata within those 4 propositions? Now, if we have a loved one that we cherish so much, like our mother or father or our spouse, partner, or our child, if that person is still alive and we still don't know the person, we don't understand the person, we cannot connect very well. Do you think you will find the person in the digital version of that person? Do you think you will understand that person through that digital version or the avatar of that person? So these questions are perennial, right? They've always been there. And we try to do away with it to find the back door, a way around birth, death, old age, sickness. And yet, meanwhile, somebody, a beloved, is sitting right in front of us. What do? We hold up our iPhone. You see this? At home, at restaurants, right? Everywhere. In public transit, everywhere you go nowadays. Each person has an iPhone. and that is their reality. That is our reality. You go on a date, and each of you look at the iPhone. I mean, my goodness, that's really, really sad. But we are so used to it now. We would feel incomplete with our iPhone. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, of this, he is pioneering these AI, right, inventions. And he made this statement: you are all cyborgs already. You just don't realize that. Cyborgs, part human, part machine. A lot of time we are more machine than human, right? We can spend 8 hours easily in front of a screen. During that time, we're mostly machine than human. You see? A woman, she talked to me, she said, "Sister D, can you talk to my son? He wouldn't go to college. He wants to start working." And I asked him why, and he said, Sister D, AI will take over everything anyway. If I go to college and study, when AI takes over, it'll be a waste of my time. I might as well just start making money now. That is in the psychology, in the thinking of the young people now. They even say they can invent some kind of a device to implant in our brain so that we can absorb information, data better. And they said the older generations may not take this option, but the younger generations, they may take this option. You see? So we are trained at a very early age now. Children at the age of 1, 2 are already on the screen, and many are addicted to electronics. They have eye addiction. Okay, iPhone, iPad, eye addiction. So this is very alarming. As a robot, as a cyborg, as an AI, it doesn't have feelings. They even interviewed this particular AI. What do you think that humans have that you don't have? And she responded that humans have feelings, have love that I don't have. But I wish to continue to learn so that I can have those experiences. Now, as humans, we have conscience, we have awareness, we have feelings. When we become more and more machine and less human, those human feelings in us are still there. They're just suppressed. They're not addressed and cared for. So they continue to be generated and suppressed as waves. But they build momentum, right? And they surface. And that is why AI robots don't suffer, because they don't have that process. But as human beings, we suffer because, however, we cannot ever be completely robotic. Our human feelings unaddressed cause us suffering. And it's evident now, right? The incidence, the rates of depression, anxiety, antisocial behaviors are skyrocketed, right? In children, in teens, in adults, more and more people have mental illness. And a lot of it is because we are not fully human. We are more machine, more robotic than human. And that brings suffering. We cannot prevent the development of AI, artificial intelligence. It has its own life now. And I'm sure it's been a part of our life for, many years also in a more discreet way. And it's becoming more prominent, more obvious. But we cannot ever compete with artificial intelligence. You can upload, billion of, they call parameters into this computer, this AI, right? We have to learn. It takes us time since our infancy till now to learn information and relearn, right? And encode and re-encode again and again to remember something. You can just upload into this computer and it knows everything. So if we want to compete with artificial intelligence, it's a losing battle. And we just suffer more and more as a human race. We become incapacitated, paralyzed. Nowadays, when we have this ChatGPT that can translate, can transcribe, can edit, can write articles, like in seconds, in minutes like this, I myself feel so intimidated. But the young generations, will they even dare to learn to read and write and to express themselves? Because they cannot do that as well as ChatGPT. You see? So the only way out, I see, is that to confront this problem is that the more technological society becomes, the more human we need to become. The more real and authentic we need to become. Being authentic is a need, a deep need in our own being. We need to be loved, we need to love. Since infancy, we have these needs. But there's another need that I've learned, is that the need to be authentic, to be real, to be ourselves as we are in every moment. To not feel, I'm not as good as the next person, as my sibling, as my cousin, and now as my coworker, and now I'm not as good as this robot or this AI. You see, we compare ourselves with others, but we cannot be ourselves. To feel that we are enough. Wherever we are enough. I really appreciate this Chinese character for enough. Tuk means enough or sufficient. You know what this stands for? The mouth or the head. And this would be the body. This would be the arm, and this would be the two legs, right? If you have a head, if you have a body, if you have an arm, just one, but you have two, and you have two legs, that makes you enough. It makes you more than enough. And I share this with young people because they feel pressured. They never feel that they are enough. We, as doctors, nurses, as engineers, as mothers, fathers, we don't feel that we are enough, that we have enough. So we operate on this foundation of lacking, of inadequacy. But if we remember that we are more than enough, that we still have a head, our mind is still, clear, still can generate insight, can still have awareness that this body is still intact. There may be certain illness in us, certain severe diagnosis we may have, but still our body parts are still there. Other parts are still functional. We still walk. We still dance. We can still play. We can still embrace a child, hold a dying person. That makes us more than enough. If we remember that, then we operate on this foundation of stability, of sufficiency, self-sufficiency. You see? Okay, let us enjoy a sound of the bell together. Breathing in, I recognize that I have enough conditions to be happy, that I am enough. And breathing out, I give rise to the aspiration to take good care of these conditions of happiness in myself and all around me. While we are investing a lot of resources on ways to escape death, to postpone death, we are not taking care of our lives. When we still have youth, good health, a body, we don't take care of it. We actually escape ourselves and our life a lot through getting lost in external things. Yeah? Escape is, escapism is a coping mechanism. Many of us, most of us actually, have gone through some sort of difficulties in life or trauma in life, in our childhood, in our teenage years, young adult life, or later. We all have gone through a lot. And so in those difficult times, we employed a certain coping mechanism, which include fight, flight, or freeze, right? As our methods. And it was effective because we survived. We're still here. But it becomes a trauma, it becomes traumatic when that coping mechanism continues to be rehearsed so that it has become a habit, even an addiction. It has become actually a personality. I'm like that. I withdraw myself, I self-isolate. I work, I get married, I, do things, but I'm numb inside. Many of us experience this. We are numb deep from the inside. We are frozen. Or we keep fighting with ourselves, fighting with others. Whatever that comes along, we'll fight. Or we run away. We self-sabotage. We may, run away from relationships before it's failed. Yeah? We may stop midway before we get a degree because we'll fail anyway. So we are stuck in these negative, self-destructive coping mechanisms when the difficulties are no longer there. So you have a difficulty, let's say this size, or an unfortunate event that happens, then we have a coping mechanism that becomes harmful, negative, like a drug addiction, sex addiction, work addiction, etc. That coping mechanism now, combined with the original trauma, you see how the problem becomes manifold, becomes much greater, less manageable. And that's what happens to many of us and our patients and people in our society. The Buddha used the analogy, the image of a person who gets wounded by the first arrow. It's very painful. But if a second arrow is shot into that wound, the pain doesn't, it is not doubled, but actually the pain becomes exponential, right? If you shoot the second arrow. So we have difficulties in our life, we have traumas, but the second arrow is our denial. It's our coping mechanism, trying to escape it, to suppress it, to run away from it. And that prevents us from living our life deeply, from wasting our life away until the moment when we receive a severe diagnosis like cancer or terminal illness. Then we just freak out. Then we will do everything. We want the doctors, the nurses to do everything to save us. You see? You see the contradiction? Wasting our life away when we have youth and health and good health. And then when we are sick, we are about to die, then we fight just to be alive. So I have learned from my own experience with myself, with my patients, and as a spiritual practitioners, those of us who fear death intensely, it's most likely because we have not lived our lives deeply. We have so many unresolved issues, what we call the unfinished business. That is what driving our fear and our desperation to live. It's not because our life is so meaningful that we want to live more. It's not. I have sat with dying patients in hospitals, and some of them on their deathbed, on the last days of their lives, they are severely depressed. They keep looking out at the door, through the window, waiting for a loved one to come. But no one came. Because in life, they didn't care. They didn't take care of their relationships. They severed their relationships with their spouses, partners, children, parents, etc. So in these dying hours, they're waiting for somebody to come, and to no avail. I've also had patients who just get so angry. They scream, they holler, they, curse at the nurses, at the doctors. So much anger arises. All of this because of unfinished business. In Vietnamese, we say at our death hour, the ghosts of our lives, they come around. And that's what frightens the dying person. So my direct experience with it was that when I was doing residency, and my partner died suddenly in a drowning accident. And that just really woke me up to the fact that I had tried so hard in my life with the belief that if I could become successful, if I could find a true love in somebody, then all the losses, the abuse, the trauma that I had experienced in my childhood and in my teenage years, all of them would be compensated, đền bù, được đền bù. But you know, like I said, you know, working in the hospital and feeling so overwhelmed by my own emotions that I didn't even want to go and face my patients. And when my partner died suddenly, I just woke up to the reality that all my suffering was wholly intact. It was all there, nothing changed. And now his death just pushed me over, just like a straw that broke a camel's back. Surely he meant a lot to me. I was broken by his death, but I was also broken because of everything else in my life that I didn't take care of. And you know, one day I drove to the hospital to return everything because I decided to not do residency anymore. I was going to Plum Village to become a nun. I was fortunate to have met only 3 weeks before, to have met our teacher, Zen Master Thích Nhất Hạnh, 3 weeks before. And I learned that through the practice of mindfulness, of meditation, I could transform my suffering, my trauma. And so that gave me hope. That was the only hope I hung on to. And so I went to, I was driving to the hospital to release everything, my badge and books and all. And on the way back, I was on this freeway. And a woman was like pointing at the hood of my car. And I looked, and it was like fuming, smoking. Smoke was rising. And I just tried to get off the exit immediately. And as I was going down the exit, I pressed on the brake, and it seemed to not work. I pressed harder, and I pressed it completely down, and there was no brake in that moment. I don't know how the brake just went out, just then and there. And I was going down this exit that was in this, you know, convoluted, this shell-shaped exit, and both of my hands were on the wheel. I was looking straight ahead. There was no thought, there was no feeling arose in me, but images. It was amazing. Images that came to my mind at like a speed of light. Images of my life. And I didn't like use my intellectual mind to interpret which, you know, what was that about? Was it when I was born, or, you know, when I was 5 or 7? No. These images came at a lightning speed, and at the same time, I knew exactly what they meant. No interpretation, just direct understanding. And it kept going like that for a while. And then the car, you know, went off the exit, ran through some red lights, some green lights, until it lost its momentum. And then it stopped on its own. So I experienced that. There were no ghosts, actual ghosts that surrounded me at my death hour. They were memories. They were significant moments of my life. They arose, you see? And that is something that can happen at our dying hours, the last stage of our life, the unfinished business. And it causes us a lot of dis-ease, a lot of fear, a lot of regret. And so to learn to take care of ourselves, body, thoughts, feelings, experiences, as we go through the day, that is a way of taking care of ourselves most authentically. And the past, on the one hand, the past is gone. And at the same time, the past is in the present moment. You know, our worldview, the way we look at ourselves, right? The way we think, behave, and speak, they are all products of our past, right? So the past is right here in the present moment. But we can truly take care of the present moment. We really have agency in the present moment. And if we forego this chance, then we really lose the opportunity to heal ourselves, to take care of our unfinished business. Everybody wants a good death. I want a good death. As a practitioner, I'm not being morbid. Really, at this stage in my life, I don't yearn for fame. I don't yearn for money, wealth, whatever. But I deeply wish to have a good death. And I have understood that to have a good death is to live as beautifully as you can, each moment. To have a good death is to die as beautifully as you can, each moment, right here and right now. Thoughts, negative thoughts, unresolved conflicts, take care of them, release them, let them go. That is to die beautifully. That is to live deeply our lives. You see, if we can do it today, we can do it tomorrow. We can do it at the last moments that our body will have to be released. And I have good models for that. My own grandmother, who raised us, my brother and me. Our parents passed away. I was very young. I already lost both of my parents. My grandmother was there. I can be the person I am today thanks to my grandmother. If in your life, however difficult your circumstance has been, but if you have a stable person, a stable figure in your life, that's why you are here, my dear. And we practice to be that stable figure, person for somebody else. That may be our child, that may be our spouse, for our patient, for ourselves. We can be there. So grandmother was my savior. She never went to school. She didn't know how to write her own name. But she's my greatest teacher of all my life. And I came to the US at the age of 17 with my younger brother. And I didn't want to leave grandma at all. But grandmother told me that was our only chance to have a future, because as Amerasians, children who were born during the Vietnam War, fathered by American GIs, we had no future in Vietnam. We faced a lot of discrimination. So I had to listen to my grandma and to come here. And only within a year, my grandmother died. And I was just broken. But when I found out that in her dying hours, my grandmother was very lucid, she told my auntie, wash me, give me a new change of clothes, because I'm going to a conference. I'll be meeting the Buddha. So my auntie and my cousin did just so. And then she said, invite the monks to come and chant for me. And there were these 2 monks that my grandmother supported for many, many years, and they regarded my grandmother as their own mother. So they were staying on the 3rd floor. They came down, and as they were chanting, my grandmother put her 2 hands together into a lotus bud. But somewhere midway like this, she stopped, and my auntie bent over. She wanted to help my grandmother to form this lotus bud. But the monk said, let grandma be. Let her be. She has passed away. Now, when I learned of my grandmother's passing, it gave me deep peace. And it gave me non-fear. It's the greatest gift. Non-fear is the greatest gift. If we as healthcare professionals, as caregivers, if we can cultivate non-fear towards our own, aging process, if we can cultivate non-fear towards our own sickness, our own death, then we have non-fear to offer to our loved ones, to our patients, to those that we come in contact with. You see, it's the greatest gift of all. It's non-fear. And it is all possible that we can help others to have a good death. There's a practice of beginning anew that we will present to you in the next day or so, and I hope you pay close attention. In this practice of beginning anew, there are 4 steps. The first step is to water the flowers, to acknowledge the good qualities, the conditions that we have in ourselves, in our life. Now, we can help. I have helped dying people to practice beginning anew with their loved ones. They share their appreciation for their spouses, for their children. Their spouses and children share appreciation for them as they're lying, on their dying bed. Yeah? They practice watering the flowers. Then the second step is to apologize for the unskillfulness that they have done. And I read this sutra and it makes me so happy because it was practiced already at the time of the Buddha. I'm running out of time, but I want to read you this. One of the Buddha's chief disciples, the Venerable Shariputra, he knew it was his time to go. And he come to the Buddha and asked permission to enter nirvana. When we live with clarity, with a lucid mind, we are capable of knowing the time of our death in advance. It happens again and again. My grandmother, a humble person, without a higher education, she knew the time of her death, and she embraced it and welcomed it with dignity and peace and ease. And so this venerable came to the Buddha, and he said, "O Lord, may the Blessed One permit. May the Exalted One consent. The time has come for me to attain final Nibbana. I have relinquished the life force." And the Buddha asked where you will attain final Nibbana, And the Buddha also said, do, Shariputra, what you think is timely. To give permission to our loved ones so that they can go in peace. Do not hang on to them. Do not grasp. You see, it is very important. My grandmother told her children and grandchildren, do not cry. Do not keep me back. Let me go. You see, the Buddha said, do what you think is timely. And the Venerable Shariputra said this, so that I might worship these feet of the Buddha, I have fulfilled the 10 perfections throughout an incalculable period and 100,000 eons. My heart's wish has found fulfillment. He had this aspiration to become a chief disciple of the Buddha, and he practiced for so many lifetimes, and in that particular lifetime, he has fulfilled his wish. And he said, I shall soon enter the city of Nibbana. If any deed or word of mine did not please you, O Lord, may the Blessed One forgive me. It is now time for me to go. And the Buddha replied, I forgive you, Shariputra. But there was not a single word or deed of yours that was displeasing to me. Do now, Shariputra, what you think timely. This is the practice of beginning anew, to express the appreciation for ourselves, for our own life, for our loved ones. Yeah? And to apologize if any deed or word of mine did not please you or hurt you, affect you in any way. Please forgive me. We can help our loved ones, our patients to do this. We can practice this in our daily life with ourselves, with each other. You see? So to be able to live with all the burdens put down, no unfinished business to tear us apart, to frighten us, then we can live with dignity, with peace, right? And that is really the last 2 remembrances that I didn't have a chance to go through, is that even our loved ones are of a nature to be sick, to grow old and to die. There is no way to escape that departure from our loved ones. So we learn to be there, to put aside our electronics, to get to know them, so that we don't have to create this digital version of our loved ones, and so to get to know them later, get to know each other now, you see? And the last remembrance is that only my actions of body, speech, and mind will continue me. We have children, yes. We have grandchildren, yes. And they can continue us. But really, in the end, it is our actions of body, speech, and mind that are transmitted to our children and grandchildren. Whatever that we have not been able to transform, they will be transmitted. But whatever suffering, whichever suffering we're able to transform, that will also be transmitted. You see, transmission takes place every moment of our daily life. And so we learn to take care of our transformation and healing so that their transmission can be beautiful, so that our life and our death can be beautiful right here and right now. So my dear ones, I will stop here. And thank you so much for taking the time from your work, from your family to be here. And I hope that your time here will be beneficial, that your hearts and minds are open so that you can learn these concrete practices, can gain the insights, and so that you can be truly happy in your service, in your care, and also truly benefit yourself and others. Thank you so much. We'll listen to 3 sounds of the bell together.
So dear Sangha, please undo your legs and give yourself a gentle massage.